Welcome, everybody. Thank you for joining us here on Connections, a brand new podcast. You're actually our first guest.
What?
Yeah, you're actually
Awesome,
our first
man.
guest. We actually came up with the idea. When was it? Probably 2-3 weeks ago. Actually, we've been talking about it now for a little bit, and we put it into fruition. So thank you for being on here.
I'm excited, man. Number one. Podcasts are cool because, it's just such an easy way to create content, right? It's like you get to sit with somebody, just have a conversation, and you get a bunch of pieces of content. So I think your podcast is going to be very successful.
Dude, it's an honor to sit with the top producer like yourself. Thank you for having us at your office as well.
Thank you. Same here, man. I mean, I admire you a lot, and it's you're doing big things out in the real estate world for sure.
Awesome, thank you. So yeah, tell us a little bit about yourself, how you guys started, how you got a beautiful office like this. I see you have great taste.
Thank you. Yeah. So okay. Essentially got into the business about 4 years ago. Yeah, about 4 years ago. And initially, I was in college. I've always been kind of like a go-getter, right? Always over-leverage myself. I always try to do more than I really can. And in college, I was like, I'm going to get my real estate license because I want to get my real estate license. I want to become an appraiser. I want to have my property management business running. And college was pretty crazy because I pretty much finished in 3 years, right? And so as soon as I was done, I really said, you know what? I need to take this real estate thing seriously, and I'm going to give it a real shot, So my dad pretty much told me, you could either choose go to the corporate world, or as soon as you graduate, I'll give you $100,000 and you can go buy a flip. And I said, okay, I'm going to give it 6 months. If it doesn't work and I fail and I lose everything, then I'll just go corporate, right? But as soon as I got into it and I bought that first flip and I had my real estate license, I knew within the first couple of weeks, this is what I'm going to do, Yeah. And after that, I did a flip. I learned a bunch. Didn't make any money, but didn't lose anything.
That's already a win.
That's a win, right? For your first one.
It's so easy to lose money.
I made all the mistakes that you could possibly think of. I overbuilt the property. Added it was a 2-bedroom, 1-bath, 700 square feet.
Yeah.
I converted it into a 4-bedroom, 3-bath, 2,100 square feet in Linwood. There was no comps for it, so it couldn't.
How long did that take?
It was about a 6-month project because we pulled permits and everything.
You built a brand new house.
I built literally a brand new house.
You had 1,300 square feet, right?
1,300 square feet. I had no experience in construction.
Yeah.
I was there at I was pretty much there at the project every single day, managing it, learning, right? It was definitely an experience for sure. But yeah, all the mistakes you could think of, I did them. Luckily, got away with it with just broke even. I think we made $2,000 or something like that after we paid commissions and everything. Yeah. And then so after that, I was I'm hooked. Even though we didn't make any money, I knew I can do this, Yeah. And so then it was about December of 2019, I believe. Yeah, December of 2019. I joined a brokerage officially at that point. So I had just finished a flip. I joined a brokerage. I said, I'm going to really give real estate a shot. I'll still keep looking for flips, possibly do them. But as soon as I joined the brokerage, 3 months later, COVID hit, right? And so then the world just kind of came to a standstill, essentially.
Yeah.
And I was kind of oh, shoot, what do I do? No one's hiring. I'm now in this business in real estate. Everyone's saying the world's going to end. Real estate's going to crash. We're going to see 2008 happen again. And so I really just took a leap of faith. And with some of the money that I got from the flip, I decided to just buy Zillow leads, essentially, online leads. So I started off with $500. And so as everybody was pulling out of the market, online leads, right? People were canceling their contracts with Zillow. Zillow wasn't what Zillow is today. It was really just an online lead platform for agents. I doubled down, and I kept doubling down for pretty much all of 2019. And my first year in the business, I did $180,000 in commission. I spent $160,000 in marketing, so still made no money, but I was okay with it, and generated a bunch of business, and then after that, I found a way to make it profitable, obviously, and brought my costs down and all that stuff. But that's essentially in a nutshell how we're here today.
That's interesting. Yeah, it's funny you say that because a lot of people look at like the commissions, right? Like, oh, I made X amount this year. It's like, okay, but how much did you really keep?
Exactly.
You know?
And it's not about how much you make.
Exactly.
It's about how much you keep.
The cool part about what you did, in my opinion, though, is that you were able to scale it really quick. So then once you were already making the money, then you just made the tweaks and turns to I guess, bridge the gap of what you're spending and what you're keeping.
Exactly. And I think ultimately, really every starter, every startup, right, ultimately is like that, right? I mean, you start heavy, right? You kind of spend, you test, and then you have to kind of start dialing it in and figuring out, okay, what direction should we go in terms of an organization, right? So I think more realtors need to think that way. Honestly, I think realtors are really scared to a lot of realtors don't see their business like a business, right? They just see themselves as like a salesperson. And I think a lot of realtors need to start thinking that way. Test, collect data, make decisions based off that data, and then scale. That's the only way to do it.
I mean, we're in a data world, whoever has the most data is the one winning.
That's 100% correct.
But I definitely agree with you. A lot of realtors, I mean, I was a realtor for 5 years. I still am technically, right? I just don't use my license. But yeah, it's most, I didn't know anything about marketing. And even the offices I was at, they didn't teach about like marketing or, I didn't even know what skip tracing was until 2.5 years ago when I started wholesaling.
Yep.
So once you make that jump from salesperson to business owner is when things start to change.
Big time.
And it's scary. Scary.
It's the biggest bet on yourself, right?
Yeah.
Like literally the biggest bet on yourself.
Yeah.
It's like the only way this can fail is if you don't make it happen. It's just like, so I hear that a lot with business owners. And I think we're in a transition period when it comes to like brokerages. I think we're in a time where you're going to see a lot of change in the real estate industry, in the retail side at least. Brokerages are really going to be something completely different than they were in the last couple of years.
Yeah.
What I mean by that, it's like I think brokerages are going to have to step up their game when it comes to really teaching agents how to market themselves and really think of themselves like a business. Not like before where it was like, I'm the broker here, this is your office, and then you do what I say, but I don't pay you.
Where's your time?
And where's your time? Exactly. And where's your time?
Yeah.
It's like, and I think that's going to change. And it's changing. It's already happening, but it's going to, as the market keeps to change, you're going to see a lot more of it. And there's going to be a bigger emphasis, I think, on brokerages to step up their game and teach agents how to really be a business at the end of the day.
Yeah, and I think even the dress code now, being a realtor, right? Like you don't really see, like you see all these top producers and they'll show up to the office in jeans or a t-shirt. Like you don't even see people really wearing full suits or ties and stuff no more.
Only reason I'm wearing one is because I thought you were going to wear one and I'm on this podcast. Any other time, you can ask anybody on the team. I'm literally in a t-shirt and some jeans and
that's
some
funny.
sneakers. So
No, I don't really wear suits. I did when I first started though. I mean, I was going to listing appointments when I was 19. I think that's another thing too, that when you're really young and you start young, like you have to dress like that so people take you serious.
You have to.
But then the more experience you get, you start, not wearing a tie. You start doing one less button. You get what I'm saying?
It's okay, right? So you get that confidence. Almost,
yeah, for
right?
sure.
So it's like, I think when it comes to like, I don't know, just agents in general, right? It's this kind of cycle. Sales in general, right? I mean, it's a cycle, right? You become a salesperson, then you start kind of getting your flow, your style. Then once you kind of develop that, I mean, you're all in, right? And this kind of builds from there.
Yeah. And it's just interesting how it happens because not everybody does it, but the ones that do are the ones that really make it.
Yeah.
And then people see, people hop on the train of real estate all the time. It happens to me that, it's unfortunate, people waste your time and stuff, but they'll see the end result, but then they don't see like the long nights and the stress behind it. You just learn to live on stress.
Yeah, literally. All day and a shitload of coffee.
Second one today. What time is it? 11:30,
Good Lord. It's like the barrier of entry is so low, right? To become a realtor. You're literally like, it's
spilled my coffee already, huh?
It's okay. That's part of the show, you guys.
This is authenticity sells.
Live. It's live. No, it's not live, but it's real time. Okay. So you have the barrier of entry for realtors is so low. It's one of the lowest in any industry. I mean, think about what it takes to become a lawyer, a doctor, right? Like, to become a realtor, it takes 3 months and 2 tests or whatever, like 1 state test and 3 exams, right?
And you can make lawyer and doctor money quick.
Super quick. Yeah, I mean, with our team, we just did, we're hitting $700,000 in commission by the end of this year.
That's
good. It's like, there's clients that I have that are doctors that they don't make that much money,
And they're W-2.
And they're W-2.
So they're on the highest tax bracket.
And exactly. So it's one of those things where the barrier of entry is so low, but a lot of people jump on the bandwagon and they just get into it without really having a full picture of what it's going to take, right? Being all in, being fearless, right? Being,
developing yourself. It's not just a business. It's reading the books and having the mindset and surrounding yourself with good people. Like if you really want to produce, you have to put yourself in that environment. And how do you put that? I think the biggest conception is you have to change your mindset to not what I can learn from people, but what value do I bring? Even if I'm new, there's some value I can bring to everybody I meet.
Correct. And coming with that mindset and coming from abundance, you start attracting that. And that's where you want to surround yourself with. And it takes so much. I mean, it takes some really long nights, right?
For sure.
Some deep looking at yourself, really looking within to really come to that realization where, you start thinking that way. And you start surrounding yourself with people that are like that. To be where we're at in, 4 years and a couple months in the industry, it really took a lot from not just me, but like my whole team. And I preach it to everybody on the team. It's like, we are here, we have a mission, right? And, so when you ask like, how did I get here? It's really just that. It's putting in the work and surrounding myself with the right people, and you're definitely one of them, man. To me, honestly, I met you a couple months ago, but what you're doing out in the real estate space, specifically with like flips and wholesaling, I mean, it's killer, man. You're
Thanks.
making it happen.
Appreciate it.
I know you said, so you started off as an agent, right?
Correct.
And then what kind of, like, what happened after that, and what was the time period, I guess?
So I discovered wholesaling by accident. So I worked with somebody for 5 years. He kind of took me under his wing. He's actually here in Downey.
Oh, cool.
Yeah, you might know him, Sylvester.
Sylvester. Yeah, I think
Sylvester Madrigal.
Yeah.
Yeah. So he, I met him at a seminar.
Oh wow.
Actually, his old assistant. I knew his old assistant, and then she introduced us, and I was I think 19 at the time.
Oh wow.
And then we went to a seminar, and that's where I really connected with him. And then he took me under his wing. Dude, I learned everything under him. He was like an open book, and I feel like that's why my style is like that, because that's how I learned business. Like he took me under his wing. I was his assistant for 2 years, but then he helped me get my license. I saw it like P&L statements, corporate structures. I knew how to market, CRM management, sending mailers, quarterly calls, text, like the entire business aspect, not just producing. Mm-hmm. And his thing is we never bought leads, that's why I'm so big on that. Like that's new to me.
Yep.
I've never bought leads. I've always just worked sphere as an agent. And then when I transitioned into wholesaling, it was a lot of cold calls and text messages. That's why even now, like the production I do, I don't do any sphere at all. At all. So the way I got into it, there was this guy at my office killing it. You might know him, Danny Navarro.
Yeah, Danny Navarro.
So he's a buddy of mine. So he.
So you were with it All Stars?
Yeah.
Oh,
Century 21 All Stars. I learned a lot at that office.
Biggest office in the California.
SoCal, yeah.
SoCal.
Yeah, they do like 2,500 transactions a year.
Like 300 something. I think more than 300 something agents over.
When I was there, it was about 250.
Oh wow.
260. That's when I was there. Huge office, 55,000 square feet. That's huge for a real estate office.
Crazy.
But yeah, so I asked him, I was like, dude, what are you doing? Because he was killing it, And he's like, oh yeah, I get coached by some guy named Thatch Nguyen, the Vietnamese guy. He's based in Seattle.
Yeah.
So he's like, yeah, I get coached by him. So then I'm like, okay, cool. So he connected me with the coaching. So then Thatch was like, oh, it's $5,000, and I was like, whatever, this guy's producing. All right, I'm gonna just pay the ticket, right? You have to pay the ticket. So I did, and it was my last $5,000. So it was like a sink or swim situation, I was like, dude, I gotta make this work, So then I joined the program, and it turns out that what he preaches is not the retail. Like a lot of agents come in with trying to get the listing, right? His way is the listing is the last option. Like his mindset is like, how do I acquire this property? And if I can't acquire it, how do I flip it? If I can't flip it, how do I wholesale it? If I can't wholesale it, I can list it because I'm licensed. And he preaches local market. So then when I joined his coaching, I was like, dude, I paid all this money to get listings, and this guy's talking about wholesaling, you know, and flips and stuff. So I was like, well, I don't want to ask for my money back. Like, I'm gonna just make it work, you know.
Yeah, just do it.
So I went through the course. I started joining the calls. It took me like almost a year. I would say probably like 3 months, a year, right? I wasn't really taking it serious, but 3 months to get my first wholesale deal. And then I remember my first wholesale deal, I made 40 grand.
$5,000 investment
To make 40 grand first
to
deal.
make 40 grand.
Yeah, that's a crazy ROI,
Insane.
rate of return, you know?
And people ask me like, what should I do? I want to learn. I want to get into the business. Like, hire a coach.
Yes.
The best investment you can make. You'll be lucky if a good coach brings you on, right? Even then, right? I mean, so it's like, yeah, but man, 5 grand for 5,000. 3 months later, boom, you get your first deal. Then what happens?
And then I just reinvest the money. I start hiring a bunch of cold callers because so Thatch was very old school. So he does his own prospecting. Okay. So he does really well, dude. He owns like 150 doors. Like, I mean, he does mad production, you know? But he's been doing it 30 years. So it's like, okay, how do I scale? So then that's when I discovered really wholesaling, and like the wholesale culture is all about scaling and marketing. So then I discovered virtual assistants. So then I start hiring cold callers, and then I hired a personal assistant as a virtual assistant. And then at one point I had 20 cold callers. And our deal flow has never been a lot, but our commissions are really high. Yeah. Our assignments.
Yeah.
Like 2 assignments last year, we made $102,000. So we did a 40K and a 62,000.
Damn.
So we were making as much as flippers without flipping.
Without doing the liability, the work, the headaches, right?
We just did all the marketing, and that's what we got really good at, like getting niche lists to have the biggest margins, and then that's just how it started, and now we're here, you know.
Wow.
Now I'm still licensed, but I don't really do the retail side as much.
So what does the next 5 years look like for Neil?
So the next 5 years right now is really building the CRM company, the offercentral media, but I want to enter the education space. So not just obviously still flip. I mean, that's like always going to be there, like the flipping and the wholesaling, and because that's my bread and butter. But now it's like, okay, what can I add to it that will bring value not only to me but to others?
Yeah. And
that's the education space. So right now, the next move, we were actually talking about it on the way over here, is I'm already generating a lot of seller leads. I just don't do anything with them as far as retail. So what I want to start doing is all my VIP agents that I have really good relationships, like say for example yourself, we were talking about it.
Yes, we were.
Is start giving leads to the agents. So it's like, okay, how do I bring more value to the people around me that are already in the circle, that are working to not only make myself more money, but make everybody more money. And I'm not doing anything with those leads anyway. So that's the next step right now. In the next 5 years is really build the brand, and then I want to exit.
Yeah, that's the name of the game.
I want to exit,
right? Having the freedom.
Yeah, even if I only make say a couple $1 million, whatever it is, now I have the experience on what it takes to build the brand and then exit. Yeah. So then I can do it at a larger scale.
And let it run by itself.
I might really like it and just stay.
Keep going, right? Yeah. I think that's having that freedom, right? To be able to say like, I want to do this. And that's what I'm going to do, and have everything keep kind of running on its own, right? If you wanted to, ultimately. Well,
that's the thing. I think anybody that starts a business, I mean, this is my personal opinion, should go with the mindset of selling it one day.
Yeah.
Why? Because when you're thinking of selling it one day, you're working on your SOPs, you're working on your profit and loss statements, you have the corporate structure, like because you're thinking of exiting one day, so how do you exit? It has to run without you. So then if you go with that mindset from the beginning, I believe that's like a really, really solid foundation with any business.
Agreed. And I think more people need to think that way for sure. It's like, I guess, with me, right? I'm kind of like, throw shit on the wall, see what sticks, and then like we just keep going, right? Just in the last, I would say like year, have I started thinking that way. Like, I've always been like, scale, go big, go home, like, but in terms of like, looking at my numbers, looking at my P&L, like focusing on my structure, all of that I kind of put on the back burner, And I made that mistake the first couple years in the business.
You don't know where your money goes.
Yeah, you have no clue. You have no clue.
You're making money, but then it's going away, and then you're looking, you're like, dude, where's all the money at?
Or even worse, like you ask yourself, like, where should I, if you need to like go double down, or you need
like what's working?
Yeah, what's working? Like, where should I invest?
Yeah.
Right? And it's like you have all these options, and especially in the real estate space, there's so many people that are trying to like, market to you and try to get your business, right? Ultimately, it's like looking at your numbers. I can't emphasize that enough. It's like you have to be like that, right? Thinking like, not just be, I don't know if you ever heard this before, like, not just be a glorified employee, right? You have to actually be a business owner.
Yeah, you have to step away and see it from an outside perspective, like what's going on. Like people that are like, hey, I'm not getting any deals. It's like, okay, well, what are your numbers? They're like, I don't know.
Yeah.
And then they do the numbers for the day, and they're like, oh, I only had 3 conversations today. And it's like, no wonder you're not doing any production. Just increase the numbers.
It's simple.
The numbers don't lie.
Numbers don't lie. And it's like, you if you can't exit and walk away from your business, if you can't go to Bali for 3 months, right, and your business continue to operate the same way that it was at the same level, ultimately you're just an employee for your business.
Yeah.
Right. You're a glorified employee. You're not really a business owner.
Yeah, and to get to that point, you have, it takes time.
Yeah.
Right. You're not gonna just start a business and then be able to go to Bali for 3 months. Like, it might take those a year, 2 years, 3 years to even build, maybe even 5 years to really build that
industry.
Yeah, to build that, to get to that point. So yeah, it's just something you just got to sacrifice.
Yeah, but at the very beginning, right, when you start, you need to have your eye on it, right? Because if you don't, it's really easy. I don't know if you would agree. It's easy to just, and it happened to me, honestly. Like, I got caught up in it, and it's easy to just go in the direction of, I need to be here. I need to control everything. I need to micromanage. I don't need to focus on all these other things, right? I just need to operate. Mm-hmm. And you can get trapped in the operator, hat, right? Yeah. So it's very interesting.
Yeah, last year, because I'm part of these trainings, they're pretty interesting. I'll invite you one day. It's based on like quantum physics and then existentialism. So then it's like the study of human behavior, right? So they're like week-long seminars. They're like 4 or 5 days. And from 11 to 7, like you're in there all day. And it's like communication skills. You go up and present. They give you feedback. And it's like leadership development, right? Okay. So I do a lot of that. So these trainings, I mean, they're a week long. Wow. So last year, when the company was growing, I had said no to the trainings because I was like, no, I have to be there. Yeah. Like, it's growing. Like, I have to be there. And the person that was inviting me, I mean, she's like very, very successful. So I was like, you know what? If she's telling me to do it, I'm going to listen to her, you know? Yeah. That's another philosophy as well in itself. And I went, and it was crazy what happened because I thought I had to control everything. And that was my biggest lesson from going to the seminars is I thought I had to control everything. And the first time I went, I left, I came back, and we had 2 new deals under contract. And then some of the VAs were stepping up, the virtual assistants, and then my partner at the time was stepping up as well, where it's like, well, Neil's not here. Let me step up. So then I was like, dude, I don't even need to be here. Yeah. Like I can focus on something else, you know? And it just, after that, it was just like, okay, me developing myself as a leader is not just helping myself, but it's like having me to step away to have people within the business step up on their own.
And give them that opportunity, right?
And give them that opportunity to allow them to make mistakes, because they will, just like we do.
Like everybody, yeah.
So that was my biggest lesson going to that, like not fully trying to control everything.
Yeah, it's interesting. Yeah, it's hard. It's not easy for sure, but it's 100% necessary. You know, if you have your fingers in everything in the business, ultimately you can't really do anything well.
You're handicapping your business.
Yeah. At the end of the day.
Because there's people that do stuff better than, say, myself in the business.
And it's so hard to say that, right?
Yeah.
Because you're the owner, right? You're you're the one having to make sure that this is profitable. You're the one that has to make sure that things are getting done. Customers are being serviced. Employees are being paid. It's all on you, but then you have to let that go.
Yeah. And
give people that opportunity. I think that is the sign of a true leader, right?
Yeah.
It's like giving people the opportunity to learn from their mistakes and develop themselves, right?
Yeah. Yeah, and it's not I think there's a jump, right? Like have you ever heard of the Way of the Superior Man? Have you heard of that book?
No.
So it talks about there's 3 stages in a man's life, right? The first stage is like, okay, how do I make myself better, right? And that's when we're young. Like, hey, how do I make money to support myself? but it's all for ourselves. And then the second stage is, I mean, you come to a time where it's like, dude, it was never even about myself. It's about the people around me, my family, my wife, my spouse, kids, whatever, right? Whatever's in our life at the time. Then you make that transition where it's not even like you're not doing it for yourself anymore. Like you're good. It's the people around you. And then the third stage of a man's life is when it's not just the people around you, but how do I make the world better? So knowing what stage of that you're in as a man, as a development, and that's why a lot of I would say that's like very masculine energy, right? It talks about that in the book. Not saying it's just for men, you know. But
no.
Podcast. Yeah, I know. No. It gives masculine and feminine energy, right? Because it's called the way of the superior man. So it's a men's development book. But yeah, those are the three stages. That's why you see a lot of people in like their 50s, 60s. Once they've done everything, they get into politics. Philanthropy, politics. Like, how do I make the world better? You know, giving back. So being able to recognize that is pretty interesting.
Yeah. You know, I guess now that you've kind of made it right in terms of your business, right, and now you're starting this journey in terms of like education. Like, what are some of the challenges like you kind of see coming in the next couple of years, specifically in that space?
I can tell you a challenge right now. I don't know if I see challenges. I think the biggest challenge right now is like me not being where I want to be, right? And it's like, okay, getting into the education space, it's just a self-conflict, right? Like, how am I going to teach somebody when I'm not where I want to be, you know? But then I was actually talking to one of my mentors the other day, and he was just telling me like, okay, when you get to a certain level, it's really hard to relate to somebody that's just starting, because then they say, oh, well, just go do it. But it's like, okay, but where? You know, or how do I start? Like there's such a gap. And he's like, well, what if, because I'm like, I would consider myself right in the middle of that. Like, I'm not where I want to be, but I'm not, I have a lot of experience too. Yeah. So it's like, maybe I'm that gap that can connect when you're first starting to that level. Yep. So then that really changed my perspective. So that's my biggest conflict right now. Like
that's interesting.
Not being where I want to be, but still teaching people or working on teaching people. And again, it's like, what value do I bring? So then you really have to dig down and look for that value.
It's interesting. I think, you know, it looks like a challenge up front, but it could really be an opportunity, right? I mean, that could be your almost like your sales pitch. Like, hey, yeah, there's this, you know, coach that's been doing it, you know, coaching for 30 years, but he's been out of the practice for, you know, and like, I'm like in it. I'm in the trenches. Yeah. I've gone through the struggle. And that's honestly what I admire about you, man. I mean, it's like you're doing it. Like, you know the little things that are happening and how you can, you know, overcome those things. It's like someone that's been out of it for so long isn't going to be able to isn't going to be able to like transmit that to somebody.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah, I feel like I'm still up and coming. I'm still making that transition myself. So yeah, I mean, I haven't figured it out yet, you know?
That's big, man.
If I would have figured it out, I wouldn't be here right now.
We would have been making this podcast. What's the point of it?
Yeah, in Bali, you know?
Bali, there you go.
Yeah, so it's interesting. It's interesting, but it's you don't really know something until you can teach it to somebody. Oh. And teaching it to people now is like, I'm learning it that much better. Yeah. Because now I have to know it in a way where I can break it down and explain it to somebody else.
It's so interesting. Yeah, no, I experience that all the time with my team. It's like, sometimes I think I know that, right? Like, I got it covered. I got that. And then I go back and try to teach it to someone, and it's like, oh, wait a minute. Like, where do we begin? But it's almost like a way of like creating a lesson plan and, you know, kind of, it's interesting. You kind of go back and really look into that process of the business, and then you can break it down. I like doing it because it helps me kind of go back and look at really like that operation, right? And really analyze it, dig into it. Every time I do it, and I talk to a team member about whatever it may be, right? You know, CRM, follow-up, marketing, anything it might be in the real estate space. Like, it helps me kind of find new things that I can improve on, right? And then kind of build from there. So I think it's important for sure.
Yeah, it's a trip because just recently, right, I've been teaching people how to cold call and like the scripts and all that. Dude, I haven't cold called in a long time because I had the virtual assistants. Of course. So then now doing it, like, I had to get back on the phone, which is I'm okay with, but it was just an interesting experience because I was a little rusty.
Yeah.
But it's just like you never forget, right? Never. It's just I did a couple calls and then I was back.
And boom.
Because the first 3 years of my business, the first 3 years, I would call 5-6 hours a day.
Wow.
Cold call.
And how many outbound calls?
I would do about, I never really counted outbound calls. I counted more contacts.
Yeah.
And I would do anywhere from 30 to 50 contacts.
A day?
A day, yeah. And usually I was ranging anywhere from 8 to 12 contacts an hour.
Oh,
yeah.
gosh.
And every 50 contacts was one lead.
That had to be like at least 300 calls, right?
No, it was more than that.
Yeah.
It's like 500 plus,
In a day.
Yeah, in a day. I was using Mojo, I remember. Mojo dialer, triple dialer.
Isn't it crazy? Like, you're willing to do whatever it takes, right?
Yeah, and that's really where I learned, because it's your marketing hat is generating leads, and then your closing hat is your sales hat. Your sales hat, right? Is a follow up and the closings.
Yeah.
So then it's like I would prospect for 4 or 5 hours, and then I would follow up. I would follow up on the leads I had to do, and then I would go show properties, or I would go to appointments.
Yeah.
So it was an interesting. Like I remember my mom would call me at 8 p.m. sometimes. She's like, "What are you doing?" And I'm like, "Oh, I'm still at the office. Like I can call till 9, legally,
Legally, yeah.
Yeah, I was 20. I was 20, 19, 20.
Yeah.
And it was interesting because my friends at the time were everyone starts working at that age, 18, 19. They were going out, and funny story. I actually I'm from Moreno Valley.
Oh, okay.
And when I started working with Sylvester, I moved to Downey.
Oh, wow.
By myself.
By yourself?
By myself. I rented a room. I only knew Sylvester. I didn't know anybody else.
Oh, my God.
And he actually helped me. He's like, "Hey, if you come, find a room and I'll help you pay your rent." And he did. And I was like, "Dude, you're not going to tell me twice." So I moved to Downey.
Talk about the biggest bet on yourself. Literally,
Yeah.
Moreno Valley.
Yeah.
You leave everything behind.
Yep.
And you just landed down and you don't
Drop
know
out of college. I did 1 semester of college. And I dropped out of college and I moved to Downey.
What was like your family, your friends telling you?
Well, my dad, I wasn't on the best terms with my dad because his thing was like, "Oh, I came to this country so you can go to school, give you a better life." And it's like, you get what I'm saying? It's just, I'm taking a different path, At the time, he didn't see it. Yeah. I didn't even see it at the time. I was just like, dude, I don't want to go to school, so this is the only other option.
I get it.
But I've always had that like hustler mentality, like even when I was in the 7th grade, I would sell chili suckers.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, I remember it was the first time I was able to save $250, and it was all in ones. It was like a fat stack like that. I was like 12 years old.
All from candies.
Just candies, yeah. I would go buy the bags for like $5-6, and then I would make $25 on the bags because I was selling them for a quarter.
Damn. That's a true hustler right there.
Yeah, in the 7th grade,
In the 7th grade.
Yeah, in the 7th grade, and I wasn't on the best terms. My mom always supported me though, and it's crazy what can happen once they see that like you really want it and you're really working, even if it's not working out yet. Yeah. Like once they see that you're really, really committed to that, like just the whole perspective changes.
Everything changes.
And
at first it's like a fear, right? They're scared, right? Yeah. Like what's happening? Like is he gonna be able to make it happen? Right? They're protecting you ultimately.
To the best of their knowledge.
Yeah.
And there's nothing wrong with that.
Exactly.
But at being that young, you just don't really understand that. Yeah. And a lot of people don't. So then you get upset back. And then that's what causes the conflicts.
And then you create the resentment, and then that kind of passes. It's like a cycle,
correct.
Right?
Yeah.
Totally.
So once he saw I was committed and stuff, and it was tough the first 3 years. I remember the first year I only sold one house. So I'm not like those success stories like yourself where you make all this money the first year. I'm like, dude, how?
I made all this money, but spent all this money. I barely broke even.
I sold one house that closed, and then the second year I did 6 homes, only 2 closed, and then the third year, the first 6 months I didn't do anything, and then that July or June I did, I think it was like 8 transactions. Wow. So then I went from like 0, and then I made like 60, 70 grand in a month, and I was like,
what the heck?
What? So then I was like, okay, if I can do this every month, like now if I can do just 2 deals a month, or if I can just do months like this every month, like how do I do that, right? So then I started doing pretty well, and it was funny because my friends would go out and do all that, and then I moved out here, so I was alone for 2 years, 3 years.
Which is like the best thing you could have done, right?
Yeah, completely alone, completely unplugged myself from my high school friends and everything for 2 years, even my family, Yeah. And just surrounding myself with this environment. And then by the time I was 21, I hit I hit 6 figures. So I remember I think it was like 140K that year. And then that was it. I was like, dude, this is what I'm gonna do. I was
all in on it.
Yeah, 2019 was my biggest year as a solo agent because I was still an agent, and I spent all my money. Like
car, I'm assuming?
No, I didn't buy a car, bro.
car.
I went to New York. I went to Miami.
Travel.
I went to EDC. I went to Vegas like 4 or 5 times. I went to all the music festivals. Like
Southern California agent spends all his money in Vegas. You know, like that's your typical agent.
Yeah.
Trust me, it happened to me. So.
Yeah, lesson learned though. You know, it was fun. I don't regret it. But it wasn't like I was making millions of dollars either. You get what I'm saying? Which is, so I'm glad I learned the lessons at a smaller scale.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
So then after that, I came back. I had to move back with my parents because I had literally no money on my accounts or overdrafted.
Just moved back.
Which was a blessing because then, it's funny because at that time I was at my lowest point. That's when I met my fiance now.
Wow.
At my lowest point, and she was with me at my lowest point. So then from there, I got a girlfriend and I moved back with my parents, and then I just went straight to hustle mode. I was like, dude, this is never going to happen again.
Yeah.
And I just got to work and now we're here, you know?
So you moved back. You move out of Downey, you go back. How did you meet
to Marina Valley for 3 months.
How did you move?
At a music festival.
At a music?
Yeah.
Hey! That was the best investment you could have made.
Yeah, I paid all that money to meet her, you know?
There you go, exactly. That's awesome, man. I mean, it's interesting how life takes you, right? Like on this like journey, you know?
You just never know.
And you have to just reflect back at it and just say, hey, it's who I am, right?
Yeah. So she's been the biggest blessing, and it really allowed me to put my head down and get to it. Because again, that was my transition from, okay, I know I can do it by myself, but it's not about me anymore. It's like now I'm building a future. Like how like now I'm looking 5-10 years down the line, and it's like, okay, where do I want to be, or what am I working towards?
Yeah.
You know.
Yeah. 100%.
So it's an interesting journey for sure.
It's all in the journey. It's enjoying it, right?
Yeah.
With the good, the bad, and the ugly. You know.
So, question: if you can start over, and you find yourself when you first started, what would you tell yourself? For somebody that wants to get into the business, like what would you say? What would be the first thing that you would tell them?
The first thing I would say would be, I would say a lot of things, but like the very first thing I would say would be, you know, just be kinder on yourself. I would say, you know, don't be as hard on yourself, right? Especially like in the moments where things were really rough. I think me being so hard on myself like clouded my judgment, and I made a bunch of mistakes.
Yeah.
And I think now, like, I'm like in a completely different space now, right? Like, you know, financially and it's everything. And I realized that I make the worst decisions when my emotions are high, right? And so, like, I've learned to really have like the emotional intelligence of like controlling my emotions. I try not to like get super mad or like super happy about things. Just keep it leveled, right?
Yeah.
Because you're gonna
neutral state, right?
Neutral state, yeah. Because you're gonna. It's like every day you show up, it's like you're ultimately going. You know, you're going into combat, right? And you're gonna have to make decisions in your business every single day. Really, how you're gonna manage relationships, team members, staff. I mean, everything, right? And so transactions, clients, and I think looking back, if I was just a little bit more level-headed, I think I wouldn't have made as many mistakes, and that would probably have saved me time, stress, all that type of stuff, you know. So yeah, I mean, at the end of the day, I think that's probably the number one thing I would say. The second thing I would say is start looking at your numbers sooner. Honestly,
keep track, right?
Keep track of everything.
Every conversation, money coming in, money coming out.
Don't try to impress people, you know?
That's the biggest thing.
Don't try to impress anybody. Literally, like, you know, in this business, you do have to, like, make it till you, like, you better, I don't know how the saying goes, it's make it till you break, no,
fake it till
you make it. There you go, okay. Fake it till you make it. You have to do that, right? Like, you're literally starting off nothing, you have no experience, no sales. To get your first sale, you have to do whatever it takes. You have to become whoever you need to become.
You gotta fake a confidence in a way to where it becomes natural, right?
Yeah, if someone's about to buy or sell, do the biggest transaction of their life with you, you need to get across to them that you're experienced, you know what you're doing.
Yeah.
So the first couple sales, you definitely need to do that. But I think cutting that, like, you need to do that maybe in front of the client, right? But like, when it comes to like your peers, your family, relationships, like, you don't have to impress anyone. You don't have to prove anything to anybody. And I think I made that mistake early on as well. Just trying to show everyone like, I made it or I did it. I didn't fail, because I had so many people that told me like, you should just go. I had a job lined up at Mercedes corporate. It's like I could have just gone to go work for them and it would have been set, like $125,000 a year. I had this bachelor's degree. I had just graduated, super like motivated, total people's person in college. So like everyone loved me. And then like you're becoming a realtor. You literally just spent $160,000 on your college tuition. You have I have $100,000 in debt at the time, and it's like you're gonna go become a realtor.
What you could have just done from the beginning.
Which you could have just done that from the beginning, literally. And so like everybody was doubting me. I mean, luckily my parents have always been like super supportive, and I think they that really helped, honestly. But like everybody else around me, all my friends were like kind of, they wouldn't say it directly, but you could tell. Mm-hmm. So looking back, like little me, I would tell myself like, for sure, like don't care about what other people think.
Yeah, for sure. And that's hard sometimes.
Super hard.
And the whole fake it till you make it, the way I take that now, before I would take it like, okay, let me go get this car, or let me get this watch or suit. People don't really care about that stuff at all.
They don't actually. Most people don't even pay attention to that. Like, they're not focused on that.
Yeah, and the ones that are paying attention to it are the ones that are in the same boat as...
And they're probably not going to transact.
Because it's okay not to have that, just as long as you're looking clean, right? As long as you... Whatever car you drive, keep it clean. Whatever you're wearing, keep it clean, nicely ironed, keep yourself clean, and that's all that really matters.
Show up, right, on time.
Yep.
Be able to have a conversation with someone that's not like, like a good conversation with someone. So read a book, go read a news article on something.
Intellectual, right?
Intellectual, yeah. Like those things, you don't have to buy them.
Yeah.
Like, you don't have to pay for anything.
University.
Literally, YouTube University. So off subject here, but like I'm always testing different marketing channels, right? So literally on Saturday night, like I had, friends are out, I'm on Instagram, I'm looking at everybody's stories, like people are all out, everybody was watching games, sports, right? Like my Saturday night consists of me learning in depth, like deep dive into understanding CapCut and understanding video editing. Because I wanted to understand how I could build a team to do like video editing at scale, right? And that could produce content for me.
Yeah.
So like I'm deep into it, like I'm like understanding like how to like speed up videos, slow them down, how to cut videos. I was like looking, can I use AI to do this? Like
you actually can.
Well, I need to learn more because I couldn't find a way to do that part.
Yeah.
But
we can. Marco right here can help you with that.
Thank you, Marco. So I'm diving deep into this, and it's like I don't care what anybody else is doing.
Yeah.
Like I'm just focusing on this, what's in front of me.
You're probably doing more. You're making more money than all of them.
Honestly, I could probably say that with a pretty good confidence. Yes.
Yeah.
100%. Because it's like, and honestly, like before, it took me a couple months, like 6 months into the business to like be okay with that. Like early on, I was like, damn, am I going to have another opportunity to like hang out with them or talk to that friend or be with those people or go to that restaurant or go to that party, go to that club, right? And then like 6 months in, I was like, I don't miss it at all.
Yeah.
Like, I don't miss it at all. This is like the weekend, Saturday night. I'm not saying I don't go out and I don't have fun, right? It's like, but like, I'm taking this time to really focus deep into this and then build something out of it.
Yeah.
We have such limited time in our lives. Like, really, realistically, think about how many weeks we really have of like working. It's roughly 200 really working days in the year.
Have you ever seen the Skittles? No, not the Jelly Bean video.
No, I haven't.
So they put a jelly bean for every day of your life, and then they break everything down. So they'll tell you, okay, on average you spend X amount of days getting ready. So then they'll take those jelly beans away, and then you spend X amount of time commuting to work, and then they take those jelly beans away. And then at the end of the video, it's like what you're really, really left with, and you're just like
a handful.
Holy shit! Yeah. Like, dude. What?
If that doesn't scare the living hell out of me,
send you the video.
Send it to me because honestly, right? It's like what else can motivate you? Someone to like get out of the trap that society has us in. It's just living day to day, not thinking about tomorrow. It's a trap at the end of the day. And so for me, it's like, I don't know how we got here, but like, it's just, I really believe that you have to just think big, and you have to bite the bullet and get shit done.
Yeah, and I believe your skill set has to match your ambition too. I actually heard that from Gary Vee one time, because you can be as ambitious as you want and you're like, I'm going to do this, but then if you're not developing your skills to match that, it's like, dude, yeah, anything's possible, but you also have to develop your skill set to match that ambition. And I was like, dude, that makes complete sense.
That is right. That's a reel, you guys. I'm gonna tell you, you didn't cut that right there. That needs to be a reel for sure. Yeah, no, man. Big time. Yeah, if you don't have the skills, you can be super ambitious. You can be like, I want to take over the world. But if you don't have the skills to make shit happen, nothing's gonna happen.
And a simple skill can be communication. You can be the best communicator, and communication is actually a huge asset. You can do whatever you want when your communication skills are developed.
Yep.
Have good conversations, connecting with people, building relationships. That's another skill set. Having long-term relationships and being able to maintain those relationships.
And honestly, I've put some thought into that as well over the last couple of months. It's like communication skills. Really, I think if you're able to build that up now, in the next couple of years, that's gonna be gold, man.
That's why I go to those seminars.
Yeah,
that's all. They're 6-month courses.
Wow. It's like, I think young people right now are totally out of that, right? People are just like focused on like video games or social media, and like they're not talking to anybody. They don't know how to hold a conversation with anyone. I mean, even like this podcast, man, we don't have any questions set. You guys, we're just literally
no outline.
There's no outline. It's like that. I think if I could look back and say, like, if I can invest in myself, where would I focus on? It's definitely communication skills.
And I think anybody in their 20s should be doing that. The real estate investing will always be there, right? The investing into the businesses will always be there. But in your 20s, you have to invest in yourself. And it's developing yourself as a leader, the communication skills, all that. Like, that's your biggest investment, because then once you start getting into your late 20s, you'll really start reaping the fruits.
Yeah. Agreed.
And it'll build a solid foundation to whatever you do. You'll be good, because if you build it really quick, you can lose it really quick too. So
if you build it really quick, you can lose it really quick.
Really quick, you'll lose it just as fast. It's like people that make a lot of money very, very fast, and they'll lose it just as fast, just because their foundation wasn't solid. Yeah. And you see that a lot, unfortunately.
All the time. Even especially in real estate, for sure.
Cool. Is there anything else? I know we got to get you to your meeting.
I know. No, man. I mean, I just honestly, like, I think it's big what you're doing. I think realtors really, really need someone like you. I think more than ever, and I applaud you, and make it happen, man.
Thank you. Yeah, tell the audience we appreciate you, by the way, for being our first
absolutely
first guest. Where can they find you? Where can they reach out to you?
So pretty much everywhere.
Our two followers.
Yeah,
we're just getting started.
You guys better go ahead and follow. Okay, I need to get at least 2 followers from this time.
Yeah, right.
No, I on Instagram, pretty much everywhere on social, at Sergio Angulo Homes with an S at the end, and you can also just call or text Sergio at sergioangulohomes.com, or text at 323-430-3837.
Cool, guys. So you heard it from Sergio Angulo himself. Thank you so much for being here, and I'm really excited what comes out of this.
Let's make it happen.